5 years ago, the existence of dungeons was confirmed. They appeared simultaneously all around the world, releasing massive numbers of monsters in an event later known as the Stampede. 5 years later, in Sapporo, stands Hokkaido's largest dungeon, Chikuho, located just outside the gates of Odori Park. The area is crowded with people, when one adventurer accidentally bumps into Karaboshi Haruki. Haruki is a 27-year-old beginner-level adventurer. Chikuho has always been busy, but he feels the crowds have increased recently. He isn't popular, and didn't obtain any loot that day. During Japan's period of confusion after the dungeon outbreak, the government introduced the profession of adventurer. Those who qualified were permitted to risk their lives by entering dungeons and defeating monsters. Haruki knows he needs to work harder. As he looks at his phone, he notices that some people use their adventuring experience to gain an advantage in job hunting. Former adventurers often present themselves as confident and capable of handling harsh environments, traits that appeal to employers. Suddenly people begin running towards someone. It's Tatsun. Girls surround him, excitedly saying they are huge fans of his blog. Haruki checks his own blog, which has only 4 views, and wonders why no one reads his posts. Later, as he drives home, he appreciates the road, thinking about how the area was once mostly ruined but has now improved. When he opens the door to his garage exhausted, he stumbles upon a staircase leading underground. He stares at it in confusion. Is it a sinkhole? He wonders, only to realize it is a dungeon entrance. He is baffled by how and why a dungeon entrance appeared in his garage. His snowplow machine lies destroyed in the corner. He looks at it, now ruined, remembering how it cost 3,000 yen. He worked hard to buy it. Before owning the snowplow, he had to shovel snow by hand every morning. He wonders if he will have to do the same again this winter. As he kneels on the ground mourning his snowplow, he notices a screen lying nearby. He picks it up, wondering what it is, and sees a button on it. He presses the button and a bright light bursts from the screen. The light enters his body with a heavy thump. He panics, thinking he has been contaminated by a foreign object and desperately wants to get it out. Suddenly a screen appears in the air, displaying his name, age and skill points. He realizes it is a skill board. Engine noises approach his house. Army personnel arrive, having been contacted by Karaboshi. The men talk among themselves, asking if this is the house that made the call. Another confirms that it is, and that a dungeon has formed in the garage. One of them asks for the landlord, and Haruki greets them. They ignore his greeting and continue talking, suggesting that it might be late and that they should call the landlord. He raises his voice and responds again, saying he is right here. They freeze for a moment, surprised. Where did he come from? They hadn't noticed him at all. Karaboshi feels slightly embarrassed. This has been the case all his life. His presence is often overlooked. He once thought that becoming an adventurer would make him stand out, but it never happened. Even in school, his classmates barely knew him, and teachers often ignored him. One of the army men apologizes and asks for his license. Haruki presents it, wanting to escape the awkward situation as quickly as possible. Karaboshi believes that one day he will have an existence that cannot be ignored. The army confirms that he did not enter the dungeon, and he confirms that he did not. The army men feel relieved, knowing they will be able to enter safely after the barricade is installed. Barricades, sandbags, and barbed wire are set up around the garage entrance. He watches how quickly the army completes their work. He compliments them, and they reply that being fast is part of their job. One of the officers asks if he lost anything in the dungeon. Haruki replies that he lost a snowplow machine, and they all express their condolences for his loss. Once their work is done, the men prepare to leave. Haruki thanks them for their help. One of them asks if he plans to train, and he replies that he does. The soldier advises him to be careful, reminding him that even with barricades, safety is important. Haruki thanks them again. The officer salutes him and leaves. He wonders why they saluted him, especially since he is wearing such a flashy shirt. The soldiers get into their vans and trucks and drive away. The moment they leave, he stands up, ready to begin his adventure. He enters the dungeon, places his hand on his chest, and thinks about the screen appearing, and it does, just as he expected. It only works inside the dungeon. Magic items can be found in treasure chests, or obtained by killing monsters. These items have various effects that exceed human understanding. He looks at the screen in front of him and wonders if there is a guide. He presses a few buttons and notices an H on the screen. He assumes H means beginner, while A or S might be the highest ranks. He believes he can strengthen items or abilities using skill points. Another screen appears displaying various attributes such as vitality, strength, dexterity, and technique. It resembles a skill tree like those seen in games. He checks his stealth stat and realizes his bad feeling wasn't unfounded. He practically has it maxed out already. His attention then shifts to the special category. He wonders if special refers to a hobby or a trait, but then notices something called growth rate. It explains that the more power he gains from killing monsters, the faster his growth increases. He clicks on growth rate and invests all his points into it, only to regret the decision the next second. Maybe he should have thought it through and invested in other useful skills. He wonders if there is a way to reallocate his points, but regardless, he gets up and prepares to move forward. He begins descending the dungeon stairs. As he walks down, he sees a massive cave and is impressed by its structure. The area is brightly lit. He wonders if the walls themselves emit light. He stabs the wall with his dagger to test what it's made of. The wall appears to be clay, yet it is extremely hard. When he chips it slightly, part of it collapses. As he does this, he notices a large insect approaching him. It is a giant centipede. According to the information displayed, it is a beginner-level monster. It moves slowly and has antennae on its head. Karaboshi knows it uses its antennae to sense its surroundings. If he cuts them off, it won't be able to target him properly. Then he can kill it by crushing its head. He charges toward the centipede, attacking with quick reflexes, and wonders why the information described it as slow. Despite his confidence, he tells himself to stay calm and that everything will be fine. He slices off the centipede's antennae and then tries to strike its body, but its skin is thick. The centipede lunges at him, and he dodges. Although it's faster than he expected, he can still avoid its attacks. He prepares another strike, aiming for the same spot. As he stabs straight into its head, it splits open. The creature bleeds out, curls up, and dies. Karaboshi gasps for air, exhausted from his first battle with a monster. He gets up from the ground and decides that before more monsters arrive, he should harvest what he can. As he stands, he feels something strange in his stomach and wonders if it's level-up sickness. Suddenly, he vomits onto the ground. It's a strange sensation, unlike anything he experienced in Chikuho before. He wonders if it's because of his growth rate, or perhaps something related to the centipede itself. Either way, he takes his dagger and begins cutting off the centipede's legs, receiving a large amount of XP in the process. He decides that at the very least he might be able to use the shell as armor. He wonders if this is normal for a first dungeon experience. After finishing the disassembly, he looks at the body and wonders if he did it correctly. Examining the shell, he thinks that with this much material, he could probably make a full set of armor, or sell it for a reasonable price. He picks it up but quickly realizes he can't take it out like this, as it won't fit into his bag. He looks at the rest of the body, the soft meat inside, and wonders if it's edible. He remembers how scholars classified monsters into two categories, those that can be eaten and those that can't. He takes his knife, slices through the meat, puts it into his mouth, and starts chewing. It's extremely chewy, odorless, and tasteless. He gulps it down with water. It's not that it can't be eaten, there's just no point. It has no flavor at all. Since the appearance of dungeons, crude oil prices have soared and food shortages have become common. Even vegetables are now considered food for the rich. He guesses that as a last resort, eating centipede meat might not be the worst option. Afterward, he climbs back up to his home. He opens his laptop and visits the adventurer's website, commonly known as Naru, to check for updates. Reading through the site, he learns that for new adventurers like himself, survival rates increase simply by visiting it once. There's a wiki summarizing monsters, attack patterns, and material collection methods, a bulletin board for exchanging information, and blogs that are updated and reviewed daily. Since it's rare for a dungeon to appear at home, he decides to update his own blog. Surely this will make it popular, or so he thinks. He writes about his first dungeon experience. An hour later, there's barely any progress. He wonders whether the internet can really make him famous. There are over 1 million users, yet nobody is reading his blog. He even suspects his page view counter might be broken. He doesn't think his writing is worse than the top-ranked blogs, yet no one seems to notice it. He notices that Bacon-san has updated his blog. On Naro, those who rank highest in views and influence are called rankers. As a ranker, you receive free equipment from various companies and earn money through collaboration deals. One such ranker is Bacon-san. He is a popular ranker who teaches beginners in his free time. His nicknames include Muscle, Old Man, and Naked. He enjoys adventuring at his own pace, focusing on fun rather than efficiency, but despite that, his abilities are the real deal. On the opposite end is Masa Tuga-san, a ranker who is extremely serious and methodical. His nicknames include the Strategist, Hero, and the Unwavering Ranker. He holds the record for the deepest dive into Japan's hardest dungeon, Shinjuku Station. Shiguri-san is the only woman in the top 10 rankers. She trained in a dojo from a young age and has never lost a fight. Everyone is amazing. Everyone is cool. But he isn't. He wonders why. Shaking off the feeling, he decides there's no time to feel down. His garage has turned into a dungeon. He's obtained magical tools, and this will definitely make him stronger. He resolves to overcome his existential crisis. Back in the dungeon, he now kills centipedes like a professional. He has already slain over 100 of them. He feels a slight sense of guilt. It almost feels like bullying them. He has grown accustomed to level up sickness as he progresses. He maps the dungeon, though he hasn't finished mapping even the first floor yet. As he moves forward, he encounters multiple centipedes at once. Moving steadily, he kills them one by one. He flows through with swift movements, cleanly severing their heads. He has become faster and more efficient. Yesterday, he struggled against a single monster and was completely out of breath. Now it feels like he's using someone else's body entirely, all because of his growth rate. In Chikuho, there was too much competition. Here, in just a few days alone, he has killed over 200 monsters. Even though he's growing rapidly, it doesn't quite feel real. His basic strength seems close to maxed out, and he no longer needs to train the basics. He wonders if it's time for a new weapon. Checking his screen, he realizes there is no boss on this floor, and although his skill points haven't increased yet, he knows they will eventually. He decides to go to the second floor. The terrain feels the same. He's heard that dungeon layouts don't change much until the 10th floor. The deeper one goes, the more difficult the dungeon becomes. Only about 10% of adventurers ever reach the 10th floor, the so-called middle levels. Since adventurers work independently, information about the upper floors is often deliberately withheld online to reduce competition. The site also mentions that floor size increases exponentially. The deeper one descends into the dungeon. As he walks through the second floor, wondering what kinds of monsters await deeper down, he hears a crumbling sound. Suddenly, plant-like creatures burst out of the ground. They look like onions with roots and leaves. Curious, he picks one up, but the moment it splits in half, tears flood his eyes. The onions are unbelievably fresh, and he can't stop crying. Deciding that's enough for today, he returns home, bringing the onions with him. There are a lot of them. In times like these, monster-grown vegetables could easily be monopolized, at least in Otama. He overharvests the onions with his dagger, causing it to snap. He sighs and decides he'll visit the weapon shop tomorrow. At the same time, a girl sighs at a counter, announcing that she's bored. She wonders whether she'll meet today's quota. She works as a cashier at a weapon shop. Meanwhile, Karaboshi is enjoying the heavenly taste of eggs at Kitori-san's house. The eggs there are the best, far better than centipede meat. Kitori-san smiles happily as he watches him enjoy the meal. 3 crates of onions are piled up in the house. Kitori-san looks at them and asks if it's really okay to receive so many fresh onions. Haruki protests and tells him to think of it as a thank you for always helping him out. After all, neighbors should help each other. As Kitori-san inspects the onions, memories surface. He remembers picking onions like these long ago with his wife, before she was attacked by a monster. Simply touching them brings back painful memories. He recalls how she went ahead of him in the dungeon and was attacked. He truly misses her. Noticing his neighbor fall silent, Haruki stops eating and listens. Soon he stands up to leave and apologizes for the trouble. Kitori-san tells him it's fine, thanks him for the visit, and asks if he'll be going adventuring after this. Sitting in his car, Haruki replies that he will, but before that there's somewhere he needs to go. He thinks to himself. He arrives at the guild and begins placing centipede hardshells on the counter. The girl behind it looks utterly confused, wondering what on earth has suddenly appeared on her table and where it all came from. After laying out the hard shells, he politely asks for an appraisal. She stares in amazement at the quantity and asks how he managed to bring all of this here. Proudly, he tells her there are 200 pieces. 200, she repeats, stunned, and asks if they are all his. He confirms that they are. She asks him to wait a moment. Soon after, she calls his name and informs him that the appraisal is complete. She hands him a paper and explains that there are a total of 216 shells. Those without scratches are worth 1,000 yen each, while those with scratches are worth 100 yen each. She asks if he is satisfied with the amount, and explains that the money will be deposited onto his IC card. He looks at the total, 153,800 yen, and is shocked by the enormous sum. After thanking her, he calculates that with his narrow points added, his total comes to 161,460 yen. He silently thanks the centipedes. Now he finally has enough money for gasoline. With his next destination in mind, he heads to the weapon shop. The moment he enters, his eyes sparkle. So many daggers, so much armor. Shields and swords line the walls, filling him with excitement. He wanders through the shop like a child. His gaze lingers on a long sword. It seems like a solid choice. Many people use one, and carrying it into a dungeon would make him feel like a true adventurer. Then he thinks about how much attention he would draw by using a dagger instead. Fighting monsters with nothing but a dagger would surely amaze people. He moves toward the dagger section and begins examining the weapons. One catches his eye, the werewolf dagger. Its price is 1 million yen, as expected for a middle-class adventurer, he thinks. The shop girl approaches and welcomes him warmly. She looks at the daggers alongside him and asks if he is interested in that particular item, offering to open the display case. He feels embarrassed, wondering why someone noticed him at all. His nervousness surpasses even what he felt when fighting monsters. And yet beneath it all, he is happy. Happy that someone noticed him. After opening the display, the girl invites him to freely touch and examine the weapons. He steps forward and gently grasps the werewolf dagger that first caught his eye, but he can't lift it. The girl explains that weapons made from dungeon materials choose their owner. He wonders if it's a matter of aptitude, like how a mid-level adventurer can fight mid-level monsters but not upper-level ones. The salesgirl suggests that since the mid-class weapon didn't work for him, he should try the entry-level models instead. They are a bit expensive, but their performance is exceptional. He moves toward that section and finds that he is able to pick up the dagger. He takes it out of its cover. It's a little heavy, but it feels comfortable in his hand. The girl explains that it's called the Silver Wolf dagger, as Karaboshi swings it lightly. She notes that it seems he's able to equip it, and they head toward the billing counter. He asks if she's unable to sell items that customers can't handle. She replies that many people buy weapons based on looks and price, then come back demanding refunds after realizing they can't use them. He comments that it sounds tough, but she reassures him that she didn't send him away without letting him experience something slightly painful first. Karaboshi falls silent. She enthusiastically adds that if he tried to return the weapon, the shape of his face would change. He smiles awkwardly and says he won't return it. She then asks if he's a mid-level adventurer. He replies that he's not. He only started recently. She begins inspecting his armor, pointing out that his leather armor is badly damaged. Embarrassed by her touch, Karaboshi remarks that he's still untalented. She keeps examining the armor, noting the many scratches, then suddenly hops onto the counter with impressive agility, bringing herself to eye level with him. She insists that what she's doing is reasonable and that she doesn't want him to die. She then looks at him with puppy dog eyes and asks if he thinks she's being weird, tears welling up. Seeing her cry, he immediately comforts her, saying she's not being weird at all. She goes on to suggest that he really should equip better armor, or else he might die. Panicking, he blurts out that he'll buy it. He ends up purchasing a centipede protector for 50,000 yen, a silver wolf dagger for 98,000 yen, and a strange mask for 500 yen, for a total of 148,500 yen. He takes his bag and leaves the weapon shop, as the girl thanks him for his purchase. As Karaboshi walks away, she starts celebrating. Yuduki Akane Ichibishi, the weapon shop clerk, can't believe she managed to meet today's quota. Raising her sales numbers had been difficult. She thinks about the strange mask filled with bad miasma that never sells. It wasn't even a magic item and yet she managed to get rid of it. She reflects on how easy he was to sell things to, and feels elated, already planning to brag to the neighboring shop clerk. Then she remembers something unsettling. The silver wolf dagger he chose shouldn't be usable by anyone below the middle levels, since silver wolves are monsters that appear on dungeon floors 6 through 8. Their fangs can be turned into high-quality weapons that perform well in the middle levels. She briefly wonders why the man claimed to be a beginner, then lets the thought go as she doesn't care about him. Meanwhile, Karaboshi is in shock over how much he spent. Back in Chikaho's underground floors after experiencing the real dungeon in his garage, he can't understand why so many people come here. The dungeon is crowded with both men and women. Normally, adventurers have to compete for monsters on the first and second floors, but today feels different. Someday he vows to reach the deepest level of the dungeon. He checks his level screen, and as expected, it has updated. His deepest floor reached is now listed as the second floor, and he has gained a skill point. He guesses that skill points can't be earned outside the dungeon, or perhaps the conditions there are too easy. He recalls that he couldn't kill the centipede with a single thrust before, and wonders whether it would still be challenging now. Was it because of the dagger's performance? With those thoughts, he prepares to explore deeper. From here on, there will be fewer people, and as he descends, he should start encountering more monsters. As he's thinking this, a killer rabbit suddenly charges at him. It attacks with tremendous force, enough that he would have been injured if not for his new armor. Killer rabbits are vicious creatures that move at incredible speed thanks to their highly developed legs. According to the website, only the meat and horns of male killer rabbits can be sold for a high price. He knows this monster is far stronger than the centipedes, and he can clearly feel its murderous intent. Strangely, this excites him. He slashes it with his dagger, but the rabbit attacks again without losing much speed. He strikes it once more, sending it flying into the air. It charges again at full speed, claws extended, but this time Karaboshi is ready. He cuts it mid-air, then finishes it off on the ground. The rabbit is dead. Panting, he collapses to the ground, amazed that he managed to defeat it. Other adventurers arrive moments later, confused. They ask what happened, and although they find the rabbit, it's already dead. They wonder who killed it. Karaboshi tells them that he did. The adventurers are shocked that someone was faster than them. As he tries to stand up, he notices his body trembling. He realizes the monster's speed and killing intent shook him more than he thought. Nearby, the other adventurers murmur among themselves. One adventurer said that's why they should have killed it quickly. Another complained that it wasn't his fault, while a third warned them to hurry because the monster parade was coming. Karaboshi was confused. What were they talking about? Deciding there was no point in collecting the drop, the adventurers started running in one direction. Karaboshi got up and ran in the opposite direction. Meanwhile, in the underground levels of the Chikaho dungeon, a girl was standing around aimlessly when some adventurers called out her name, asking if she was Karen-chan. Startled, she politely replied that yes, she was Karen. The three adventurers looked at her in confusion, unsure if this was real. One of them confirmed that he had used Naru's recruitment forum, while another commented that he had expected either a troll or a guy. Karen bowed and said she would be in their care today. They returned the greeting and said it was nice to meet her. The three introduced themselves as Lars, Shikama, and Haria. Shikama asked her age even though they had just met. She replied that she was 18. Haria remarked that she had only just reached the eligible age. Lars frowned, saying he didn't like that she was so young and might not be reliable. He joked that it was still better than being alone with the newbie Shikama. Haria added that at least it wouldn't be a naked Shikama wielding only a blade. Karen didn't enjoy the joke and instead focused on checking her equipment. Shikama announced that they should get going and suggested that since Karin was new, she shouldn't push herself too hard and should just follow them. Determined, she confidently agreed. Shikama reassured her that it wouldn't be too difficult since they usually operated below the 9th floor and would get there quickly. As they moved through the dungeon floors, Karin struggled to keep up. Shikama supported her, helping her move forward. Haria commented that she looked really tired. Lars wasn't surprised. She was a beginner after all. Karin began doubting herself. Just from fighting the monsters on that floor, she felt a wave of level-up sickness and wondered if she could really keep going. When Shikama tried to help her sit down and told her to rest for a bit, she protested and insisted on continuing, saying she was fine now. He tried to encourage her, telling her that he thought she was very brave. Despite being an ordinary girl, Lars remarked that women adventurers usually just mess around on the 1st and 2nd floors. He added that this was true because the lower floors are actually more dangerous. Haria pressed his ear to the wall and heard something. Lars asked if it was close. Haria replied that it was still far, but they would be here soon. Karen, sensing that something was wrong, asked what they were going to do, as she sat on the ground struggling to catch her breath. They simply replied that it was obvious they were going to run. All of them started running at once. Karen was confused. Why were they running? What was happening? As they moved, Shikama explained that a monster parade was approaching. A monster parade is a large-scale migration of monsters within a dungeon. The causes vary, but according to the website, adventurers are advised to prioritize retreat when one occurs. Karen tried to get up and follow them, but the sounds grew louder. The parade was close. A large number of monsters were rushing toward them. She saw the other 3 already far ahead, leaving her behind. Realizing she had to run, she shouted for them to wait. They glanced back and yelled at her to hurry up, calling her a crazy newbie. The 3 began arguing among themselves. Shikama protested that he wouldn't be a man if he didn't help her, but Lars and Haria strongly opposed him. If they stopped, the monster parade would catch up, and they couldn't afford to wait for her. Karen was still trying to catch up, confused and terrified. Suddenly, they all stopped. Shikama raised his shield in front of them. Seeing this, Karen felt relieved. She thought they were going to fight. She couldn't quite believe it, but she was grateful to be with strong adventurers. Thinking it would be safer not to interfere, she moved to stand behind them. Then the opposite happened. Shikama shoved her forward with his shield, pushing her toward the monster parade. She fell hard and couldn't move. As she lay there, Shikama apologized coldly and said she would be a decoy. Through blurred vision, she watched the 3 of them turn and run, escaping the dungeon. She tried to stop them, but it was too late. The monster parade reached her. She heard the pounding footsteps of killer rabbits closing in. Tears filled her eyes. She didn't want to die. She screamed for someone to save her. Following the roar of the monster parade, Kuroboshi heard her cry for help. He ran toward the sound and arrived just as the monsters were about to attack a young girl. Killer rabbits had surrounded her from all sides. Kuroboshi was ready to fight. He looked at his screen and allocated some points. Even a small increase in strength would help. His level shifted from H to G. The killer rabbit's claws were already inches from the girl's face. With his dagger in hand and the strange mask on his face, Kuroboshi cut down the rabbits. Blood splattered everywhere, even onto Karen's face. With his new armor and mask, he tore through the monster parade, right, left, and center. Kill after kill after kill. Even though his strength increased by only 1 point, it felt completely different. His body burned, nausea welled up, and his head throbbed, but it was exhilarating. This was what adventuring truly felt like. Breathless, he finally stopped. The killer rabbits lay scattered across the ground. As he let out a long sigh of relief, he heard the girl getting up. He turned around and she froze when she saw the strange mask he was wearing. Karen made a small, awkward sound and apologized. He realized it was because of the mask and wondered if he should take it off. Suddenly, she grabbed his hand, startling him slightly, and thanked him for saving her life. He couldn't form a proper sentence and simply replied that it was no problem. Still holding his hand, she continued speaking, saying she truly thought she was going to die. Karabashi couldn't get over the sensation of her touch. She was alive, and he was genuinely glad he could help her. Together they collected the horns and meat from the killer rabbits. He thanked her for helping with the materials. She introduced herself as Karen Kurosaki, and he introduced himself as Haruki Karabashi. She asked if he planned to keep the mask on. After packing everything up, they prepared to leave the dungeon. She offered to carry some of the materials, and he asked if she was sure she could handle it. As they walked out, she asked if Haruki was a Sapporo ranker. He corrected her, still wearing the mask, saying he was just a beginner. She stopped in her tracks. Just a beginner? Then why did he charge into a monster parade? He replied that he'd entered a self-centered daze. Karen was amazed by the answer. Karabashi himself was even more surprised, thanks entirely to the skill board. He was shocked that he had been able to charge into a monster parade and come out alive, even though he was just a beginner. He then mentioned that he had passed a party of 3 men while heading toward the monster parade, and asked if she knew them. Her expression fell. She replied that those men had been recruiting new members on the Naru website, and she had thought they would help her level up. Then she stopped mid-sentence. He understood. It is an adventurer's duty to protect others. He couldn't forgive those who acted recklessly or abandoned the weak. Of course, there are times when comrades must be left behind, but those three hadn't hesitated at all, and had only cared about escaping the dungeon. Lars had insisted they should run immediately, and Haria had viewed Karen as nothing more than a sacrifice. In Karaboshi's eyes, such people were unforgivable. At the Adventurers Guild, Yuduki Akane from the weapon shop was speaking with a guild clerk. Yuduki was asking her to review the weapon shop's income statement, emphasizing a comparison with the previous year. The store's profits had increased to 200%, and she repeatedly stressed the figure. She then smugly asked whether the clerk's branch was doing well. The woman behind the counter snapped back, telling Yuduki to stop boasting because she was being irritating. Although they were both branch managers, the clerk was Yuduki's senior, and Yuduki was expected to show some respect. Yuduki retorted that seniority based solely on years of service was meaningless in this day and age. What mattered now were results. Between herself, a young attractive woman with outstanding performance, and the other clerk who was average and older, the difference should have been obvious at a glance. The clerk was stunned, wondering who Yuduki was calling an elder. At that moment someone entered the guild, apologizing for interrupting. Both women instantly changed their expressions, and warmly welcomed the customer as they turned around. They froze in shock. A man wearing a strange mask stood there, carrying a large number of killer rabbit horns with a small girl behind him. Recognizing the mask, Yuduki immediately ducked behind the counter. Karaboshi spoke up, saying he wanted to sell the horns and asking them to appraise the materials. Yuduki felt a chill run through her. She recognized the mask and wondered if he was the same customer from her shop earlier. Karaboshi and Karin approached the counter and poured the horns onto the table. The clerk asked if they were killer rabbit horns. Karin confirmed it and added that there should be around 100 of them. Both clerks were stunned by the sheer quantity. Yuduki found it suspicious. Killer rabbits were dangerous monsters that beginners couldn't normally handle. Taking down 100 of them in a single afternoon was far beyond beginner-level bronze work. Since female killer rabbits didn't have horns, it was possible that even more had been killed. Accomplishing this alone was clearly abnormal. The clerk thanked them for waiting and announced that her appraisal of 101 killer rabbit horns came to 220,000 yen. She double-checked the receipt to confirm her assessment. Karaboshi agreed to the amount. The clerk then asked if he would like to use the team division feature. Unfamiliar with it, he asked what it was. She explained that it allowed the payout to be divided and deposited separately, and that it also granted service points, making it a good deal. He listened and agreed to use the feature. Karen's eyes filled with tears. She protested, saying it wasn't right because she hadn't done anything. He insisted that she had helped by carrying the horns, but Karen argued that was all she had done. She hadn't fought at all. He then suggested that since Karen had carried 48 horns, she should receive that portion as compensation. Hearing this, Yuduki realized that the man must have killed all those killer rabbits by himself. The clerk apologized and explained that it wasn't possible to pay out the value of exactly 48 horns. Yuduki interrupted, grabbed the clerk's arm and told her to duck under the counter. Karaboshi noticed her movement. Yuduki demanded to know why the clerk hadn't simply recalculated the appraisal properly. The clerk explained that reappraising it would force her to work overtime, which was strictly regulated, and she didn't want to anger her superiors. Yuduki scoffed at the explanation, calling her stupid, and saying that this was why she would always be slow, no matter how much time passed. Offended, the clerk demanded to know what Yuduki meant by that. By then, Yuduki stood up, apologized to the customers and asked them to wait a moment. She rapidly recalculated the appraisal, deftly working the calculator, then handed out 2 cards. She thanked them for their patience and explained that the payout had been adjusted. 1 share equivalent to 53 horns, plus 50% of the value of 48 horns, with the remaining amounts deposited separately to each of them. Both Karaboshi and Karan thanked her, and left the guild. As they departed, Karaboshi became certain that this woman was the same person from the weapon shop earlier that afternoon. The clerk, clearly upset, demanded to know what Yuduki thought she was doing, and insisted on an explanation of her actions. Yuduki shouted back that this was a major customer, and even if she usually followed what the boss said, it was fine to let half of his commands slide when the customer was the one bringing in the money. The clerk protested, asking whether Yuduki even realized how rude she was being to both the boss and the customer. She declared that she would report everything Yuduki had done that day to their superior. Yuduki replied that she did not care, and said that someday the clerk would thank her. The clerk was astonished by how Yuduki always had a comeback. As they moved toward the car and Karaboshi prepared to leave, Karan stopped him and asked how she could repay the favor. He was confused and said it was fine, explaining that he had only wanted to save her and that was all he had done. She insisted that she still wanted to know how she could show her gratitude, saying that if there was anything she could give him, no matter what it was, she wanted to do so. He was unsure what she meant. He was certain she did not intend anything improper. Her feelings were nothing but pure gratitude. Still, socially speaking, a 27-year-old man associating with an 18-year-old girl could lead to serious trouble. He quickly got into his car, told her not to worry about it, and sped away. When he reached his building and entered the hotel, he was surprised by how exhausted he felt. He doubted he would have been able to drive home if he had stayed any longer. He collapsed onto his bed and realized he had been wearing the mask the entire time. He then remembered his interaction with the hotel receptionist. Upon entering, he must have frightened them with the mask and the strange way he had been skipping around. Yet while wearing the mask, he had not felt worried about anything. It felt like a dream. He had no presence at all, as thin as air, and yet he still existed within others' sight. He began to think the mask must be some kind of godlike item. Later at the rugged tavern, Karaboshi was thrilled that he had finally made it to the popular place often featured on the Naru website. He drank from a mug, noting that a medium mug cost 2,000 yen, but he felt that today was a special occasion. While he was lost in thought, another customer bumped into him while ordering, causing Karaboshi's drink to spill onto his face. The customer ignored him, thinking he had bumped into some kind of wall, when it was actually Karaboshi. The customer's friends started to say that he had seen it happen, and had already warned him that there was some guy wearing a disgusting mask. The other replied that he had already seen him too, confirming that he was talking about the guy with the dagger. He remarked that from head to toe the man looked like a complete beginner. The first agreed, adding that he was wearing a totally unfashionable, disgusting mask because he was a nobody. Karaboshi overheard their conversation, and was amazed that he had actually been noticed and even become a topic of discussion. To him this was wonderful. He suddenly stood up, raised his mug, and felt as if he had gone from being thin as air to truly existing. He asked for another beer. The people around him were startled, as they had not noticed his presence before. The waitress came over and served the drink. He took the mug from her hand and greeted her. After finishing, he decided to return to the hotel. Back at the hotel, he began writing a blog post about the monster parade encounter. He felt that today's post had great content and would definitely get reactions. He had forgotten that the girl he met in the dungeon had also mentioned that she was blogging. He searched and found her blog titled "I Was Saved." In her post, she wrote that she would never forgive those adventurers and expressed her gratitude toward Karaboshi. When he checked her blog statistics, he saw that 1,043 readers had already bookmarked her post. He closed his laptop and went to bed, ready to sleep. While he slept, many people read his blog and commented that he must be lying, saying there was no way he could have survived and returned after the suicide attack at the monster parade. Others speculated that Air might be the blogger's name and decided to bookmark him. Another commenter agreed and bookmarked him as well. When he woke up, he found that his blog had been viewed by 5 people and bookmarked by 3. He was overjoyed. It was the first time he had ever been bookmarked. At last, he felt noticed. He began packing, ready to go home and then return to the garage dungeon to level up. But he remembered that going home could be dangerous, as the 3 adventurers might harm the girl. He decided to meet her instead. When he reached the dungeon area, it was crowded. He thought he should have sent her a direct message since finding her there would be difficult. But moments later, he heard her calling his name. She cheerfully wished him good morning. He replied and asked how she had found him, even though he had no noticeable presence. He was shocked, as this was the first time anyone had ever called out his name. She answered that it was because of his mask, which really stood out. He realized that he had forgotten he was wearing the mask again. She touched it and commented on how amazing it was. For a godly item that cost only 500 yen, she thought the shop clerk must be a goddess. Karen asked if everything was all right, having noticed how flustered he looked. He explained that he had been worried about the men from the previous day. As he spoke, the 3 adventurers approached them. Only then did they notice the man wearing the mask. Karaboshi asked Karen if those were the men, and she confirmed that they were. He told her not to move. As he had suspected, the 3 adventurers had come to check whether the girl was dead. If she was alive, they planned to threaten her, or possibly even kill her, to prevent her from spreading a bad story. Adventurers like them could be disqualified for such actions. As these thoughts crossed his mind, the 3 charged at him, ready to fight. He could not believe that in such a crowded place they would attack a young girl so openly. He analyzed them in an instant. If he dodged Shikama's shield, Harya's arrow would follow, and even if he endured that, Lars was waiting with his broadsword. He focused, carefully concentrating as they closed in. He was planning how to evade the attack when a sword came toward him, just about to pierce his torso. Just as Shikama's blade was about to strike Karaboshi, it was intercepted by another sword. Shikama's weapon shattered into pieces, and the impact sent him crashing to the ground, stunned. "What the hell is all this commotion?" said the person holding the sword. Karen and Karaboshi immediately recognized him. It was Mastasugu. The crowd erupted upon seeing him. Karaboshi was also shocked by how this figure had appeared between them. He had not seen his movement at all. Shikama began to speak, claiming that it was actually those people who had caused the trouble. He said they had been pushed into a monster parade, and thought they were going to die. Karaboshi understood the lie, and the tactic he was trying to use. The crowd started to murmur. Had they really abandoned someone to a monster parade, that would have been unforgivable. Mastasugu asked Karen and Karaboshi whether it was true. Karaboshi replied that it was not. He pointed to Karen and explained that the men had entered the dungeon with her to train her, but when they encountered a monster parade, they fled and used the girl as bait. Karen lowered her head, tears welling in her eyes. Mastasugu listened and remarked that it was truly a disaster. The 3 adventurers protested, asking why he was believing a man wearing such a strange mask when their lives were at stake. Mastasugu turned to them and said that he believed nothing. The moment they drew their weapons against other humans, they had already lost all credibility. Shikama protested, asking how he could judge them simply by looking at their weapons, insisting that it had been self-defense. At that moment the police arrived and asked what had happened. The three adventurers lost their composure, unable to handle the situation. Even the police recognized Mastasugu, and one of them commented that he was a fan. Karaboshi assumed that even the police admired him, but he felt relieved that the authorities had taken over. Karin and Karaboshi stood at a distance. Karin asked whether everything had worked out, and if the situation was finally settled. Meanwhile, Mastasugu explained the events to the police. Karaboshi thought that if it truly ended there, it would be for the best. The police then dragged the three adventurers away without further questioning. Since no formal complaints were filed, they left the matter to Mastasugu's judgment. As they were being taken away, Mastasugu turned to Karaboshi and asked his name. Karaboshi hesitated for a moment, before answering that his name was Karaboshi Haruki, and that his alias on Naro was Air. Mastasugu smiled and remarked that he was quite strong, wasn't he? Karaboshi was confused. He did not understand why Mastasugu said that so suddenly, nor whether it was praise or hostility, and he did not know how to respond. Mastasugu continued, saying that even now Karaboshi was hiding his presence. After staying hidden in the dungeon for so long, it had become a habit, hadn't it? Karaboshi admitted to himself that it really had become a habit, and he wanted to thank Mastasugu for noticing. Mastasugu went on to say that among everyone he had met, Karaboshi was the one who had erased his presence the most, and that it was an incredible skill. He stared into Karaboshi's eyes through the mask, then leaned closer and whispered that it would probably be better if he did not come to this city for a while. Karaboshi asked if that was because there was a risk of assassination. Mastasugu replied that there was indeed such a possibility, and that until then he would take care of those men somehow. Karaboshi protested, saying there was no way he could trouble him with that. Mastasugu explained that if people began to think this was what adventuring was like, everyone would suffer. Frowning, he added that if he had to be associated with people like them, even he would find it troublesome, giving them a sharp, snide look. It was unexpected to see that side of him, and that expression on his face. Mastasugu reassured Karaboshi that he would be staying in Raihoro for a while. Karaboshi asked if he could really leave everything to him, and Mastasugu confirmed that he could. He added that those men were rotten to the core, and that he was doing this for his own sake, telling Karaboshi to remember that. Karaboshi replied that he understood. Mastasugu grabbed Shikama by the collar and dragged him away as the crowd went wild, clamoring for autographs. Karaboshi slipped off to a corner and pulled up the screen. It was the first time he had ever looked at someone else's status, especially that of a top-ranked adventurer. Opportunities like this were rare, so he wanted to use it as a reference. However, as soon as he saw the overwhelming numbers on the screen, he realized there was nothing he could learn from it. Mastasugu was A rank, simply because he was a top ranker, and beyond that, he possessed divine protection, Shikigami. If someone had divine protection, that meant they had received a revelation from God. Karaboshi wanted to know more about the Holy Sword, but the status window vanished. He had moved out of the board's recognition range. Even so, he could still check the skill tree derivation, and he wanted to see the details of the Holy Sword as well. Just then, Karin came running through the crowd and asked him to take her to the dungeon. He was confused. She explained that since Mastasugu had said he should not stay in the city, she should not either, and asked him to take her to the dungeon at his home. He was shocked. How did she know about the dungeon in his garage? She told him that when he said his alias was Air, she had looked him up by reading his blog and confirmed that he was the same person who had written about a dungeon appearing at home. Karaboshi was taken aback. She added that whenever she had free time, she read the latest articles on the site. He was surprised to learn that one of his extremely few readers was standing right in front of him. It was a strange, rare feeling. She urged him to hurry, saying she was ready to go with him. He tried to explain that even if she came to his hometown, there was nothing there. She acknowledged that, but pointed out that there was still a dungeon, right? He agreed, but added that it was far away in the countryside, and if she stayed out too late, her parents would worry. Without hesitation, she said it would be fine. He could not understand her resolve, but he agreed. They got into his car and headed toward the dungeon in his garage. He tried to calm himself, reminding himself that she was also an adventurer and had already made up her mind. Her life revolved around fighting with all her strength, just like his. She likely understood the fear of losing something important. As they drove, she enjoyed the scenery outside the window at first, but as time passed she began to realize just how remote the countryside was. When they arrived at his house, she was amazed by the barricades surrounding the dungeon entrance in his garage. She confirmed that there really was a dungeon inside, and remarked that it was nice to have one right at home. He agreed, albeit half-heartedly. She then asked where the town's trading store was. He explained that there was none, since it was a remote countryside. Surprised, she asked if there wasn't even a weapon shop. He stopped her and told her not to look at him like that or ask any more questions, explaining that everything had been wiped out by the age of online shopping. Still, she remained hopeful. Since a dungeon had appeared, things would surely improve. He then asked if she was ready to take a look inside. As they descended the dungeon stairs, he asked if she knew what kind of monsters appeared there. She replied that they were centipede monsters. He agreed, saying it was because she had read his blog. He explained that her life would not be in danger, but the monsters could damage her armor, so she needed to be careful. She acknowledged this. He noticed that her armor was basically just clothing, and that the stick in her hand was not a wand but a root staff. She was wearing leather boots. Root staffs were made from defeated monster materials, and were unpopular in dungeons. They were difficult to handle, B-class entry models. He did not understand why she had chosen that weapon, which made it all the more interesting to him. He decided to ask her about it later if he got the chance. Suddenly, a centipede monster appeared, and her heart began to race. She was terrified. He reassured her that it was fine, saying that centipedes were not very strong. She replied that her heart certainly was not fine. He tried to encourage her, suggesting that since this was a rare opportunity, she should try attacking it. She stood frozen in front of the centipede. He stepped forward and pinned the creature with his foot, restricting its movement, and explained that its weak point was the head. She panicked, wondering how he could remain so calm, and asked whether he was not disgusted. He replied that he actually found them cute, explaining that the way their legs moved and their bodies wiggled made them adorable to him. She could not even look at it, and begged him to kill it already, saying she would get goosebumps to death. He told her that their eyes were lethal, and that if she looked away out of disgust, she would die. He asked her whether she was a girl who feared disgusting things, or an adventurer who could face reality head-on. That question stirred something in her. She tightened her grip on the staff, stepped forward, and struck the centipede in the head. The next moment, she began to vomit. He commented that level-up sickness was truly awful. As he collected the centipede's hard shell, she asked how long it had been since he became an adventurer. He replied that it had only been since that year. She was astonished to learn that he had become an adventurer in the same year as she had. He confirmed that it was true. She asked whether he had originally been interested in martial arts. He replied that he had not. When he was a student, he had only done track and field, nothing more. After he started working, his company turned out to be a black company. She wondered how he had become so strong while she was still so weak. He helped her to her feet and told her that since his home was nearby, she could hunt as much as she wanted. If she defeated monsters steadily, she would grow stronger. She replied that she would do her best to exterminate them all. He told her she did not need to push herself that hard. A few days later, she had become much better at hitting centipedes. After defeating another one, he estimated that it was around her 100th kill. He commented that it was still dangerous to fight one alone, and that the fact she could do so showed how quickly she was improving. Panting on the ground, she apologized and said she needed a break. He agreed and suggested they rest. She lay on the ground completely exhausted. He thought about how impressive she was. She had not complained even once. She had grit and never slacked off. That quality would surely help her in the future. He pulled up her skill board. She had no points, and her rank was H. Then he noticed something that shocked him. While Karen lay on the floor wondering what she would do if centipedes appeared in her dreams, he continued reading her skill board and saw the words magic power. He was stunned. There was still no public information about magic, yet this was the very skill experienced adventurers had been desperately waiting for, and it was right in front of him. His curiosity surged. He wanted to hear about it, see it, and understand it. However, it seemed she was hiding her magic power, which meant she was deliberately avoiding using it. The rest of her skill board looked the same as his. Novice adventurers like them had no real means to protect themselves from malice, and revealing unknown information was extremely dangerous. He decided to ask carefully, and indirectly. He casually asked Karen whether it might be possible that she could use magic. Instantly, her guard went up. She frowned and asked why he would ask something like that. Realizing he might have been too direct, he quickly covered it up, saying that he had just noticed her outfit and thought it looked like something a magical girl might wear. She replied flatly that magical girls wore dresses. He awkwardly followed up, saying that if magical weapons existed, then magic skills should exist too, right? He explained that he had been thinking about it for a while, and was simply curious. She replied that even if someone could use magic, they would not make it public unless they were an advanced user. He asked her why she thought that. She replied that it was because it could be dangerous. Karaboshi understood. She was protecting herself. She was well aware of the danger surrounding her magic power. He looked back at the screen. She had 3 points available. He was not sure whether this was good luck or bad luck. It was something he did not have himself, which made him think that this magic power combined with her points might be her destiny in some way. He allocated all 3 points into magic power. Karen did not understand what he was doing. Suddenly, strange sounds echoed around them. It almost felt like an earthquake. She commented that he had a bad feeling about this, and suggested they leave the dungeon. As they moved, he added that it felt like something was breaking. She became scared and asked what if it was a centipede monster parade. He tried to calm her, explaining that individually they were not very dangerous, but in large numbers they could cause harm. As they moved forward, a giant centipede appeared from the 8th floor. It had far greater killing power. It was poisonous, fast, and had an extremely sharp sense of smell. He was confused. Why was a giant centipede doing the first floor? It crawled forward at high speed. He told Karen to fall back and watch out for attacks from behind. He took out his dagger and attempted to strike, but the centipede targeted Karen instead, and lunged at her. Giant centipedes were not monsters that normally appeared here. They were rare mutants, sometimes even stronger than dungeon bosses. He tried striking its head, but even that part was incredibly hard. His dagger attacks failed to penetrate it. As the centipede turned toward him to attack, Karen placed her staff on its head. Using magic, she forced it back, stopping its attack on Karaboshi and killing it. As they exited the dungeon, she looked at the sunset with a bright smile and commented on how beautiful it was. He realized it was probably the first time he had ever looked at a sunset like that. They noticed something else in the distance of a new building. As they approached, they realized it was a weapon shop. He was amazed. A weapon shop really opened in such a remote area. Karen commented that it had not been there when they entered the dungeon, and now suddenly there was a weapon shop. It was incredible. Karaboshi wondered how unusual this was. Normally shops opened only after careful investigation of supply and demand. This one looked prefabricated. Still, he was happy it existed. They had just obtained a lot of materials, so without hesitation he entered. Sounds of someone crying could be heard inside. He called out, and they noticed the same clerk as before. She welcomed them and commented that although the store was empty, they were free to look around. But what were they supposed to look at? Wondered Karaboshi. He asked if she was the same person who had worked at the Sapporo store. She suddenly began crying more hysterically. Both of them were confused and did not know what to do. She started bawling uncontrollably, asking why she had ended up being sent to a place like this. Seeing her state, Karaboshi suggested they leave and come back later, and thought how she was completely different from before. But as they turned to go, she rushed to the door and told him to wait, asking how he could leave when a lady was crying in front of him. Karaboshi noticed how fast and agile she is. They both sat down in front of her and listened to her story. She explained that she had done so much for the company, and this was like harassment. She asked them if it was too cruel, wasn't it? They both nodded in agreement. Despite her sales growth, just because she had purchased materials from another store without permission, she was treated like this. He asked carefully if she had been demoted. She cried harder and begged him not to say that word. Hesitantly, he offered the hard centipede shells and asked if she would buy them. She turned toward him angrily, saying that just because she had been sent to the middle of nowhere did not mean she had become incompetent. He was confused. Why did it feel like she was trying to fight him? She examined the shells, counting 96 hard centipede shells at 1,000 yen each. As for the giant centipede shells, she asked if they were sure they wanted to sell them. He asked what she meant. She explained that armor made from giant centipede shells would be better than what he was currently using. If he already had the materials, it would be cheaper to craft than to buy. However, he insisted on selling them. He explained that he barely survived the battle today. He remembered how earlier the wolf dagger rejected him. He was afraid that if his level was too low, equipment might reject him. If he wanted to use such gear, he would need to grow stronger first. She suggested leaving 2 pieces and selling the rest, in case he needed them later. He agreed, thinking that she was indeed very capable, even if she complained about herself. She calculated the total, 8 giant shells for 40,000 yen, and combined with the hard centipede shells, it came to 138,000 yen. He then asked to split the amount evenly. Karen protested that he should receive more. He replied that she had helped defeat the centipede. Karen argued that she could only hunt because of him. Yuduki complained that this was exactly like yesterday, and told them to decide already. He asked her to be quiet for a moment. She replied irritably that they should hurry up. He suggested that she take half today, and in exchange he would listen to what she had to say about something he wanted to talk about. Yuduki continued moving items around, complaining loudly, but eventually calculated the split. He then mentioned that he had another item he wanted appraised. She asked him to take it out. It was a thing covered in centipede's fluids that Karen found disgusting. He explained it came from the centipede's stomach while collecting materials. Yuduki was amazed that he had been carrying it around so casually. Karen could not even look at it. Yuduki asked whether he wanted a simple or detailed appraisal. She explained that a simple appraisal would take 1 minute and cost 1,000 yen, while a detailed appraisal would be handled by headquarters, take up to a month and cost 100,000 yen. She suggested that such an item should be appraised at Mitsubishi headquarters. He chose the simple appraisal, as it was obvious what it was. She examined it and wondered if it was a magic tool in the form of a pouch. After inspection, she congratulated him. It was without a doubt a magic bag. The opening was small, allowing items no larger than 20 centimeters, but the interior was as large as a classroom. She asked if he wanted to sell it. As he was about to refuse, she offered 100 million yen. He was stunned. She explained that transportation costs were absurdly high these days, and that a magic bag was worth that price. Still, he decided to keep it. As they returned to his home, Karen could not believe how nice his house was. He invited her inside. She was amazed by everything, including his computer. He explained that electricity was free thanks to solar panels. She said she was jealous, as households usually had electricity limits. He agreed, mentioning how prices had risen. He offered her a seat and poured them water. She stared at the glass with sparkling eyes and drank it all at once. She seemed mesmerized by the water. He asked if it tasted good. She said it was delicious. He explained it came from a well. She then remembered that he had wanted to ask her something. He said yes. He asked if she used magic. She apologized for hiding it. He replied that it was understandable, as it could be dangerous if others found out. She agreed. He explained that adventurers should be free to have fun without restrictions. She asked if he even had a brain. He replied that maybe he did, but he wanted her to use magic. He explained that his dungeon was rarely visited, and she could use magic freely here. The more she used it, the more she would grow, and if she encountered danger again, she could escape immediately. He also thought to himself that he wanted to see it. She said she would start using magic tomorrow, but asked if she could try it now. She then apologized, saying it was hard to use outside the dungeon. He asked when she had first been able to use it. She replied that she was not sure. While walking in the dungeon, she felt like she could use it, especially when holding her staff. He then asked why she has a staff as a weapon. She explained that magic flowed better through it. She confirms these were the questions he wanted to ask her about. He agreed and shared he had another question where she was staying today. She replied casually that she was staying in his house. The water he was pouring nearly overflowed as he froze in surprise. Mastasugu was updating his blog titled "Cross the Dungeon with All Your Strength," Floor 132. As readers commented, he began interacting with them. Many readers asked questions. Did he defeat the floor boss? What was the result? He replied that yes, he had defeated the boss and obtained some kind of rod. He was not yet sure what it was, as it was still being investigated. He then asked his fans if anyone knew the name of the guy in Sapporo. People replied that they had never seen him before, wondering if he was the same person as the Monster Parade survivor. They asked what was so special about him, and why Mastasugu wanted to know about him. Mastasugu shared that the man had good eyes and was extremely skilled at hiding his presence. He thought the man might be interesting. The fans were surprised. It was rare for Mastasugu to call someone interesting, which made them wonder what kind of person that man really was. Back at Karaboshi's house, he reconfirmed with Karen, wondering if he had heard her wrong. Where did she tell you she was staying the night? She replied that she thought he had an extra room. He said that he did, and she excitedly declared that she would be staying there. He was completely against it. Karen tried to reassure him, saying it was fine, and that she would not be surprised even if there were many masks in the room. There were none, he thought helplessly. She really did not understand. She was still just an 18-year-old girl. He took off his mask. This was the first time Karen saw his face. He politely explained where they were. She replied that it was his house, right? He corrected her, saying that it was only half of the truth. The dungeon entrance was directly in front of it. If a stampede occurred, this house would be the first place hit. He was the only adventurer in this town, and if he were incapacitated, who would protect it? She pointed out that he was also living alone. He replied that he was, but adventurers needed to remain vigilant. Their job is to help people. If there were two of them, one could watch the dungeon entrance while the other stayed prepared in a safe place in case of emergency. Thinking of it as part of the job, he asked her to stay at the town hotel instead. She said she understood. He has saved himself. He knows how that rumor spread quickly in the countryside. Things would be exaggerated 100 times over, and he could be labeled a criminal before he even realized it. For a man, even being the subject of such rumors could be devastating. He explained that there was a hotel that cost 5,000 a night, and that he would take her there. She thanked him. For the next 3 days, Karen and Karaboshi hunted 100 centipedes each day. At the end of each day, they sold the materials. Karen grew rapidly, to the point where she could handle 2 or 3 centipedes simultaneously. Her magic invocation also improved significantly. As for Karaboshi, his dagger skills improved naturally. He had not assigned any points to them, making it pure growth. Having a skill that grew simply by hunting monsters was incredibly valuable. After Karen defeated another centipede, Karaboshi announced that this made another 100. She replied that she was not done yet, and could keep going. He suggested they stop for the day and take a break tomorrow. She asked if he had something to do the next day. He replied that he wanted to level up as well. She apologized for him supporting her the entire time instead of working on his own skills. He emphasized that she did not need to apologize, and told her to rest tomorrow. She said she understood, but if he went further, she wanted to go too. He firmly told her to rest, saying that even God rested 1 day a week. Disheartened, she agreed. The next morning, Karaboshi was excited. It had been a while since he had gone solo. He did not want his own growth to stagnate. Rest was also part of an adventurer's job, preparing the body for emergencies. He passed through the centipedes on the first floor and the onions on the second, moving to the third floor. The third floor looked unchanged. He wondered if he could reach the fourth. As he thought this, a black raccoon appeared. The black raccoon was a highly mobile monster with powerful claws, a tanuki-type derivative. It attacked immediately. He tried striking it, but it was extremely fast, even faster than killer rabbits. Still, that did not mean he could not handle it. He used his dagger, aiming for its body mid-air. After adjusting to its movements, he struck cleanly. He continued hunting raccoon after raccoon, stopping only after defeating around 100. He leveled up 6 times and his backpack was filled with tanuki meat. He was excited about making tanuki soup later. Now that the 3rd floor was cleared, he moved toward the 4th. Near the 4th floor entrance he was greeted by the floor boss. It was a lone black raccoon, without any minions. A one-on-one fight. He readied his dagger. The raccoon pounced. His adrenaline surged. He closed in and saw his reflection in the raccoon's eyes. He stabbed thinking he had stopped it, but he was wrong. Its claws scratched his armor. Instead of fear, excitement filled him. He used his agility, repositioned, and pierced its head with his dagger. The boss was defeated. He placed his foot on its body, satisfied. Suddenly the dungeon began to shine. He remembered reading that this was the sign of a first-time boss's defeat. He also recalled that a special item dropped when a boss was defeated for the first time. When he looked again, the body was gone. Only his dagger remained embedded in the ground. The body of the black raccoon has been swallowed by the earth. Confused, he noticed a raccoon claw and a metallic object nearby. It looked like iron. It must be a boss drop, possibly real iron. He decided to appraise it later and moved on. Checking his screen, he noticed no change in his points. Confused, he reviewed the rules which mentioned entering a new lower floor for the first time grants 1 point. Defeating rare species grants 1 point. Defeating bosses does not grant points, and killing normal monsters grant no points, and skills can grow naturally without points. As he read further, he noticed a new skill, imitation, in his skill board. Imitation allowed him to copy enemy movements. It was a combat skill that appeared spontaneously. He was pleased but decided not to assign points to it yet. He moved deeper into the 4th floor. The scenery was beautiful, dark green with lighter green patches. He wondered what CMYK ratio would produce such a color, and how difficult plate making would be. He stopped himself, realizing this was a habit from his time working in a printing company. Occupational disease, he thought. As he moved forward, he noticed a flower he had seen before. Suddenly it sprouted rapidly and opened its mouth, launching something at him. It was a potato. His eyes lit up. Onions, potatoes, and meat. This dungeon was perfect. If he conquered it, he could eat rice and curry freely. The flower fired around 40 potatoes before returning to its original size. Further ahead, he saw many more flowers. He wondered if the 4th floor boss was a giant potato. Then a 3-headed flower appeared, all heads firing potatoes simultaneously. He hid behind a rock to shield himself. Even if it was a boss, it could not have infinite ammunition. Still, watching potatoes shatter felt like a waste. He rushed forward and cut the stem with his dagger. The boss collapsed. He collected a large number of potatoes and headed to the shop. Yuduki was building furniture when he entered. He asked if she was open. She replied that the shop was closed. He commented that it was a shame and that he would go to Sapporo instead. She immediately told him to wait, saying that was unacceptable. He replied that she should attend to customers properly from the beginning. He laid out the black raccoon claws, meat, and iron. She commented that he had killed many monsters. He replied that it was just 100. She scolded him, asking if he needed to kill at least 100 to be satisfied. She asked about his rewards and whether he ever got tired. He replied that he was exhausted. She thought he must be crazy. Ignoring her comments, he asked for the appraisal results. She examined the boss's claws and iron. She explained that the claw was simply a large claw, suitable for sword materials, but he would not be able to use it. It could be sold for 5,000 yen. As for the iron, he was correct. It was magical iron. It was often combined with stronger materials and used for parts like tsubai. It was also present in his dagger and worth 100,000 yen per kilogram. He then showed her the potato-like items. She said they were just stones. He asked what they were used for. She replied that they were simply stones. Confused, he insisted they were boss drops. She examined them again, and said that while they were hard and potato-shaped, their value was 0. He mentioned that with a detailed appraisal, they might turn out to be magical tools. Then she took out a jar. She said this jar was a super rare magic tool. Excited, he asked what it did. She explained that it multiplied whatever thing was placed inside. Depending on the material, it could generate hundreds of kilograms endlessly. If gold were placed inside, it would create an infinite gold fountain. However, since he had used it to carry stones, it now only produced stones. A container that generated trash. He was deeply disappointed. Meanwhile, in her hotel room, Karen wondered what Karaboshi was doing. Was he advancing through the dungeon floors alone? The magic jar continued producing stones endlessly, as Yuduki the store clerk had explained to him. Looking at the pile of stones multiplying in number, she was getting furious. She snapped at him, commenting she understands he was in shock. He should at least behave properly. Was he planning to fill the entire place with trash? He was still accepting that he had used the magic tool incorrectly. Then as an afterthought, he asked her if he had sold the magic jar instead. How much would it have been worth? She answered without hesitation. As a super rare item, about 1 trillion yen. 1 trillion? He is even more disappointed now. This time he was truly shocked. Seeing his expression, she tried to console him. These things happen from time to time, she said. If he tried again, he might obtain something similar in the future. She also mentioned that she would be restocking some good items soon, and told him to come back tomorrow. That night he returned home and wrote a blog post about his adventure and his massive mistake. The post received 4 views and 1 new like. Instead of feeling happy, he was deeply disappointed in himself. Why did someone like this post? Why did he mess up so badly? God damn it. The next morning, Karen arrived at his house early. She greeted him cheerfully and announced that she was ready to head into the dungeon. She asked if he had any strategy for reaching the lower floors. He replied that they should stop by the armor shop first. The store clerk had mentioned that she had restocked. When they entered the shop, they noticed someone else inside. It was Kitora-san, his neighbor. He seemed to be enjoying Yuduki's company quite a bit. Yuduki apologized and asked him to leave, saying that customers had arrived. Kitora-san smiled, said he understood, and asked her to call him if anything happened. He left the shop still smiling. Yuduki then noticed Karen and asked why she was alone and where Karaboshi was. Karaboshi spoke up calmly, saying that he was right in front of her. She jolted in surprise, embarrassed that she had completely ignored him. Why was he using his presence erasing skill so much? She complained. He vaguely remembered how she used to notice him instantly before. Now she seemed much more relaxed around him. Then she suddenly clapped her hands. Well then, hurry up and leave all your money with her. She immediately corrected herself, saying she meant buy everything she has. The display itself was not very impressive. A few pieces of armor, shoes, gloves, a short sword, and a rod. They both tried on the gloves. Karaboshi commented that they fit snugly, had excellent grip, and would make holding a weapon much easier. He then picked up a pair of boots and asked if they were the right size. Of course, Yuduki replied confidently, as she measured their footprints before ordering them. Karen was visibly impressed. Next, Yuduki presented the short sword and the rod. When Karaboshi tried to lift the rod, he could not budge it. He can't lift this and so he can't use it. Yuduki looked slightly surprised, considering it was a dungeon drop. He asked if she thought it was a strong weapon. She admitted that even with her appraisal level, the rod's details were unknown. So was she just pushed to sell it? He asked. She explained that this place was treated more like a warehouse. Karen tried on the boots and gloves and said they fit perfectly. Yuduki nodded proudly. Of course they did. Karaboshi then asked Karen if she could lift the rod. Yuduki smirked. She asked, well, if she can lift it, will they buy it? He replied that it would depend on the price. Karen grabbed the rod and lifted it easily. All 3 of them froze in shock. Karaboshi felt a twinge of jealousy. Hola. She could equip a high-level weapon just like that. He asked the price. 1 million yen, the store clerk said casually. The moment he heard that, he told Karen to put the rod back immediately. Yuduki protested. He had said he would buy it if Karen could equip it. He then demanded to know the base price, warning that if she wasn't honest, they would shop in Sapporo instead. She panicked and told them not to leave. Reluctantly, she admitted the base price was 10,000 yen. He asked her to sell it for 20,000 yen. She protested, saying that it was a drop from Chikaho's 20th floor and should be at least 50,000 yen. They argued back and forth. 30,000 yen, said Karaboshi. Yuduki protested, 40,000 yen. They finally settled on 35,000 yen price. Karaboshi then examined another dagger. The blade was not sharp at all. He said, does this even cut or was it trash? She replied calmly, it is a cursed dagger. How can it be cursed if it is not sharp? He asked. Does this even cut or was it trash? She replied calmly, it is a cursed dagger. How can it be cursed if it is not sharp? He asked. She explained that it was true. The blade is not sharp, but the more monsters it killed, the sharper it became, a weapon that grew stronger with use. He was amazed what a godly dagger it was. Why was such an item here, he thought. Because nobody buys daggers, she replied bluntly. Most adventurers do not consider them real weapons. She asked if he was going to buy it or not. He hesitated. Seeing this, she immediately switched back to her charming tone and encouraged him to buy it. He asked the price, 1 million yen. He turned around to leave. She stopped him instantly, begging him not to go and offering a discount. They finally settled at 300,000. Karaboshi asked if he could also place an order. She replied that she had a basic ordering system and asked what he needed. He requested a dismantling knife and medicine for adventurers. She asked about knife ranking. He said he would leave it to her judgment. She wrote it down. Then she added casually that if he ever needed anything else, he could let her know any time. He was confused by the phrasing but agreed. Later, Karen and Karaboshi went into the dungeon. On the 3rd floor of the dungeon, Karen asked him if he had defeated the boss yesterday. He realized she must have read his blog. She then asked quietly if she had been a burden. He immediately denied it. She said she just wanted to grow stronger as fast as possible. He understood her feelings well, feeling unnecessary, invisible, like air. He felt the same way once. Then he declared that they would hunt everything today so she can be more strong. Karan's face lit up. They fought black raccoons together using their new weapons. Karaboshi handled the front while Karan attacked from behind with magic. Solo hunting was good, but collaborative play was something else entirely. After everything was defeated, both of them were exhausted and Karaboshi collapsed on the ground. Karan warned him not to push himself to the point of collapse. He apologized. He then complimented her, saying she had grown much stronger. She replied that the rod transmitted magic far better than her previous weapon. She reminded him again to reflect on his recklessness. He promised to be more careful. As they moved forward, the ground suddenly trembled. An earthquake, he wondered, but it stopped after a few moments. Karan thought the above surface was probably fine. He suggested returning to hunting. Karan shouted at him, asking if he had not reflected on anything she just said. They brought the day's material to the shop, unloading black raccoon claws in front of Yuduki. She stared at the absurd pile in anger. 352 intact claws, he said calmly. Karan happily unloaded more from the magic bag. She was amazed how much stuff can the bag hold. Yuduki grew increasingly irritated. He wondered aloud if, in 3 or 4 more days, he would recover the money he spent here. She snapped back, asking if they had some kind of grudge against her. Then he asked if she had felt the earthquake earlier. She said she hadn't noticed anything. He explained that it had been sudden, with no predictions. That same day, while Kitora-san, Karaboshi and Karan enjoyed their meal, completely unaware, dungeon stampedes were occurring all across Japan. At 5 in the morning, he heard some sounds coming from the dungeon. He gets up, wears his armor, and takes his dagger into the dungeon as he is ready to climb down. He hears more and more strange, loud noises of monsters. He is getting a bad feeling about it. He called the city police station, informing them that something very weird was happening inside the dungeon that appeared outside his house, and requested the authorities to come at once. The person on the other end said that they understood and alerted the defense forces immediately, and confirmed his identity. He shared that he is Karaboshi Haruko, an adventurer. The person on the call suggests that when they arrive, he should follow the instructions of the defense forces. He agreed and cut the phone. Then he dialed the hotel, apologizing for calling so early in the morning, but he needs to talk to somebody who is staying there. They connected him to Karen, who is fast asleep in her bed. She was startled by the ringing of the phone and picked up the phone saying that she is Karen, and her eyes still closed. On hearing Haruki's voice, her eyes opened up. He explained that she should hurry up as there is a stampede, get prepared and come to his place. She says she has understood. She was totally asleep and surprised. He wonders if she'll be fine. He is standing near the barricading in front of his garage. He's going through the website. He knew it just as he thought. Access to the website has gone up. Yuadoki calls for him from the dark, asking what he was doing up so early in the morning, confirming if he was Haruki. He asks why she was awake. Was she setting up the store? She replies something like that, as he knows that she is a legendary shopkeeper after all. That's why she was checking the purchases early in the morning, and she's pretty sure that she got the medicines today. He confirmed the medicines were here, and asked her to sell them all to him right now. She thinks it's good for her, but confirms. Did something happen that he was in need of it? He replies, probably, as a stampede is happening. Listening to this, she announces that she is going out of there. Karaboshi stops her. She protests that she wants to leave as she does not want any trouble. Trouble, he confirms. But wasn't she also an adventurer? Even if she runs away, they are going to call her for help. She explains that her residence certificate has not been changed. She thinks she'll be all right, even if she does not show up, and then says that she never said that she is an adventurer. How does he know about it? He explains that he came to this conclusion looking at the way she moves and her strength. If she wants to leave even in that case, she could just sell him the stuff. She brought him the box of medicines. While Karen is panting, she is confused and half asleep. She heard about the stampede happening, and about the monsters. She confirms if they are safe. He explains that it is happening everywhere, but it seems that the monsters are coming out at different moments. As he is doing the payment for the medicines in the store, he says to Karen that when the defense forces arrive, she should explain to them what's happening, as he wants to fight and defend this place by going into the dungeon. She is confused. He explains that he is going to go into the dungeon and look for a boss. Karen is concerned, as that is dangerous. The store clerk Yuduki agrees that is true. He does not know if there will be too many monsters and why he was being stupid. He confirms that it is true that the condition to win against a stampede is to kill all the monsters, but he thinks there is another way, eliminating the boss that's leading the stampede. If it looks like he can defeat the boss, he will do so that way instead of continuing to defeat monsters that come and protect the city. Then let's get together, Karen requests. Karaboshi says no. She asks why not. He explains that because she'll be a burden. He removes his mask and explains that he has a ridiculously small presence, and only he can go through the monsters without them seeing him. But if Karen was there, they would get noticed. She says she understood, but he is forbidden to do something like he did the last time. Haring agrees that he won't, and then he decides to go into the dungeon. Yudoki mentions it seems like he is humming something. Karen agrees that maybe he is. Everything is going totally nuts everywhere else. The monsters are destroying structures and damaging the town. They're going towards the town and adventurers are trying to force them back. Masatsugu is leading everyone, telling the adventurers to maintain formation and not let the monsters cross the line. He's aware the level of the defense force is very low, but they have a lot of adventures, so they can make it somehow. A bunch of monsters attack some normal women. He protects them and asks them to go the other way. It is dangerous out here. He receives a call. It is from Bacon. He asks if everything was all right and where Masatsugu was. He shared that he was in Hokkaido. He asks if they were in a bad situation. He shared that he is managing somehow. He replied that mid-level monsters are starting to come out. It sounds bad, said Bacon. The whole place was in chaos, and there were monsters all around. Masatsugu asks where the other rankers were. He explained that most of whom he could call to help are already there. Only Shiguri is on an expedition. He only needed to know where he was, but he's himself in a situation. He says he understands and he'll send 10 strong members. The defense forces are almost there. Hang in there until they arrive, said Masatsugu, comforting Bacon. And they end the conversation. Masatsugu looks at the blog and he thinks there is still something else he can do. Over the blogs they have requested the defense forces to help them. A lot of common people are talking about how the situation could not be worse, as noodle factories will be destroyed. Another one commented how he can be concerned about udon right now, when life of people are in danger. Masatsugu added that he is in Hokkaido. The situation is stable there, but everybody should be careful, as there's enough people for subjugation. More people start commenting on his remark. Someone said that they'll send some people to Shinjuku. He requests everyone to lend their strength, even if it is little. He keeps his device aside and is ready to fight. He motivates everyone to keep fighting and save Japan. Karaboshi is geared up and is ready to enter the dungeon. It feels like he's on a midnight expedition. He looks at his skill board and notices he still has 2 points. 1 point as backup, and the other he decides where to put. All the monsters are coming at him at once. The black raccoons, onions, and centipedes. But the situation is alright, as it seems they have not noticed him. The only monsters that were able to notice him were the silver wolves, maybe because they have a good sense of smell. He wonders if he can defeat them from a distance. He takes out the stones from his bag and starts to hit them. He can do this. He's happy that the potato stones are being useful, knowing that he can focus on the silver wolf. He bombards them with multiple stones. Excluding the silver wolf, the little ones can be kept at bay by the defense line. He keeps hitting them with stones, but then something happens. He starts to feel something weird in his body, and then he notices in front of him was the boss, a giant silver wolf. He notices he is a werewolf, which is a rare species and a mid-level monster. He notices him and runs in the opposite direction. He thinks there is no way that he can win against him, but the werewolf notices him and attacks him. He goes through the air and falls at some distance, shocked by how sudden the werewolf's attack was. But he does not stop. He again charges towards him. Karaboshi gets up just in time and attacks him with his dagger, but he comes back strong and aggressive, standing tall in front of him while he is on the ground, confused about what to do. The situation is bad. The army has arrived for help. They are shoveling and making more boundaries to protect the common people. Karin is fighting the monsters coming out of the dungeon, protecting the army people. It's been 5 minutes since this stampede started, but only small monsters have come out, and they are not a lot in number either. They also have enough people. A stampede so crazy shouldn't be like this. Only the small monsters are coming out. Could be because of Karaboshi. Kitora-san comes out and calls for Karin. He wants him to not come closer, as there are monsters everywhere. He replies that she worries too much. He shares that he is an adventurer himself, and he is seeing everyone giving all their effort. Karin thinks that's right. She has been, all this time, leveling up inside the dungeon. She is not the one who could not do anything anymore. She has now improved. She notices how a monster rabbit is attacking a worker. She goes and attacks it. She notices another centipede, a little far away, trying to go beyond the barricade. She decides to kill the centipede with magic from a distance. But some centipedes go out of her sight, and are attacking common people. Kitora-san is protecting them, as they are reaching closer. Yuduki interferes just in time and kills the centipedes. She asks Karin not to get distracted and to fix the barricade at once. Karin notices how one of the army men is hurt and wants to help him. The store clerk intervenes, saying that she should not touch a wound with her bare hands. Was she trying to spread an infection? Karin points out that if she was defending the barricade in the first place instead of doing things like this, no one would even get hurt. She ignores what she has to say and says she has no idea what she was talking about. Karin asks her not to play dumb. The way she fights, even though she is so strong, she is confused about why she does so. Yuduki arrogantly replies that she should stop blaming others for her weakness. If she has time to talk, it's better to treat some injuries. She asks why she was not fighting with everybody else. She replies that she's trying to protect her store. It's at times like this that she hates having a store outside the dungeon. One of the army men comments that what the young lady is saying is true, but if it bothered her that much, she can get stronger until the next stampede. He asks everyone to brace themselves and not let a single monster pass. Karin is determined. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Karaboshi is on the ground. He does not know what to do. If he adds a point to agility, he won't be able to make it against this one with only that. But if he somehow manages to escape, then this monster gets out, and somebody else will die because he ran, because he did not fight, and that he cannot allow. He gets up, regaining his strength. He looks at the werewolf and thinks that he looks so happy. He looks like he is a person enjoying the attack on him. He tries to defend its claws with his dagger. Heavy defending is the best he can do. but he has to focus on the next attack, one attack at a time, little by little. He can see its movement, how its center of gravity moves. He feels miserable, but this is fun. It is great. It feels great. Little by little he gets chances to attack. He knows the next one is a kick. He understands the pattern of the werewolf's attacks, but he's too fast after all. And now he knows that the next one is going to end him. He wears his mask and upgrades the 1 point in his skill board to imitation. He jumps in the air and attacks the werewolf with multiple dagger strikes. He sits on its back and keeps attacking until the monster is on the floor. He has defeated the werewolf. He also is heavily injured. He thinks it was fun, but he has had enough. He lies on the floor. His scoreboard shows 1 point added to imitation. As he lies on the ground, he feels something heavy on his stomach. It is Karen. She is crying. She was worried. She could not find him anywhere. She thought he had been eaten. He asks what happened outside. She replies that it's over. The stampede is over. Everyone survived. The stampede is ending. People from all over Japan confirmed it on the website. Naru, stampede has ended. Masatsugu confirms that Sapporo is over and everyone is safe. But nobody knows about the situation in Shinjuku. He's trying to connect to Bacon, but it does not connect. Shinjuku was destroyed. The army men collect all the bodies of the monsters in one place. They talk among themselves. They don't understand why it ended so suddenly. According to the information online, everything seems to end when the boss is subjugated. They are confused about who did that. Then they see Karen come out of the dungeon with Karaboshi. The army men ignore him and focus only on Karen. They ask her if, as after she entered the dungeon, the stampede ended, was it her who defeated the boss? She tries to explain that it was not her, but Karaboshi. He imagines that everybody will be his fan, and that people will start cheering his name and celebrating him by throwing him in the air, but that is not the case. They do not even notice him and comment that she is the one who did it, and is just being modest, as she is extremely incredible and brave, even after being this small. He notices a new development on his skill board. He does not understand why everyone insists on denying his existence. Could it be like a world-level taboo to say his name? On his skill board, a new scale has appeared called Spy. The skill developed on its own. Karen is surrounded by the crowd. All the people and the army men are appreciating her. He says that it's too sad. Maybe he should just return home already. Karen is surrounded by too many people, and it feels suffocating. She shares that she needs help. Karaboshi wears his mask, goes inside the dungeon again, and carries the body of the werewolf outside. He places it in front of everybody, and announces that he is the one who killed the stampede's boss. Everybody is amazed and wonders when did this person got here. Yuduki is amazed at the size of the werewolf. He comments that she was there at the right time, as he was planning to leave the dismantling to her, and once she's done she would like to order a few things with this material. Hearing this, her eyes light up. She hopes that the order is expensive and asks how much money he has. Does he have enough money, as she's not making ends meet, and it would probably be a good deal for her too. She then asks Karen to come with him into the dungeon, as he needs some help. Later there are heaps and heaps of monsters on the ground. The store clerk is amazed and wonders if this is a joke, because the amount of monsters is too much. He then says and takes something out of his pocket, saying that he also has something else. She is scared. What does he have to give now? He takes out a coupon that he received upon becoming an adventurer, with which he can get 5% more discount. At Shinjuku Station he learns the reason for the failure of the subjugation of the stampede that night. The area around the station was occupied by monsters. Despite the great adventurers there, they failed. It was due to a series of misfortunes. One was the absence of Japan's maximum military might, Masatsugu. Another was the simultaneous appearance of monsters in 63 locations, and the fact that the monsters were all middle level, along with the sudden disappearance of Masatsugu's replacement Bacon. In the blink of an eye the news spread across Japan, and Japan fell into shock and despair. As a result, other adventurers fled to save their lives. Shinjuku had fallen. The next day, as Karaboshi is reading some blogs on his device, Karan mentions that it must be hard reading about the fall of Shinjuku. She wonders what will happen to Japan. He shares that Masatsugu mentioned in his blog about the Shinjuku recapture operation. He is the top ranker, and he thinks he'll be okay, even though he himself really cares. But there is no way they can go to Shinjuku. With their level they can't really be of any help. Karan agrees. So the first thing they need to do is that both of them need to be stronger. They enter the dungeon again at level 4, fighting the potato monster. Karaboshi thinks fighting potato monsters like this is an easy win. Karan disagrees. She calls him inhuman. She comments that she was being rude, but if she looks at where the firing of the potato plant is pointing, she can do it. It's all about the timing. He says that he understands if it is too much for her. She gets offended and says that she'll do it. Then she says let's see what she has got. She gets up and attacks the flower right in the center. She's ready to show off what she can do if she tries. The potato plant is in pieces. She is proud of herself and asks what he thinks. He is disappointed at what she has done. She killed the potato plant before he shot anything, and this way they won't get any potatoes. He picks up the remains of the plant and mourns for his potatoes. She tries to calm him down, saying that he can always get more when he gets back here. He's angry, saying that when one wastes food like that, the ghost of the food will haunt her. She is annoyed and says he can make a vegetable garden with potato plants, so he should cheer up and raise them at home. Something clicks in his head. That's it. He says that night he collected all the plants and start replanting. He never thought of producing potatoes, but Karen is really smart. The soil needed to grow is prepared for now. He just has to wait and see. The next morning when he wakes up, all the plants are dead. He says he can't understand it. Maybe they can't live outside the dungeon after all. One of the plants is barely alive. He wonders how he can help it. The plant indicates the jar, pointing his leaf towards it. He brings the jar closer, and the plant takes out the stone, keeps it in the soil, and begins to bloom. He understands that the potato stone is an item from the boss and that it's from inside the dungeon. They just need more nutrients from inside the dungeon. The plant waves. He's amazed that the plant can understand what he is saying. He did not expect that he could communicate with plants. He asks if it has a name. It says no. He decides that since it is a special moment, he should name the plant. Since it is a potato plant, he calls it Spuddy, but the plant refuses. It gives more options, which are potato derivatives, but the plant disagrees. At the end, he suggests Rhea from Greek mythology, the god Rhea, the land of everything. He thinks this is what she likes. He apologizes to the plant for bringing it here. He shares that the real reason was that he wanted to produce potatoes. The plant attacks him with one of the potatoes, but it is not fresh. He's upset. He understands that she can't make fresh potatoes anymore. He says he'll take responsibility, and that it is his fault. He apologizes to the plant. Later that same day, when they are in the dungeon, Karen asks him if they can take a break, as they have been hunting for more than 2 hours. He replies no, he's not taking a break, as he's not tired. Karen notices that his mind is somewhere else, and she hopes he does not forget to support her in every combat. She asks if something is worrying him and if she can be of any help. He's inspecting the soil and wondering what would happen if soil from the dungeon was sold in the market. If placed closer to the dungeon, it would recover its original composition. Now that he has to take responsibility for the plant, he thinks it will end up dry. This dungeon does not have water. He has to give it back to the dungeon at this moment. She does not understand what he is murmuring while looking at the soil. She thinks it is something serious. As they move out of the dungeon, he wants to go back home, but Karen is worried about him. She thought of him as a strong person, but now she thinks she was wrong. He went on the stampede alone. He said it was reasonable to fight for hours non-stop, but she thinks he's missing something and acting strange today. As she follows him back to his house, she hears something weird. He is talking to somebody named Rhea and asking it to put a little bit in. She is confused. Was he living with his girlfriend? Maybe they were doing something private, but in reality he was just requesting the plant to get a little bit of manure, but she was against it. Karen imagines something completely else and is shocked on the ground even thinking about it. The dungeon defeating wiki website shows a lot of people chatting amongst themselves. Some want to ask if Mastasugu-san has already arrived. Another person comments that they don't know. There is no further news that they have Meikulto, as they started moving on Old Swan, so it might take some time. Another asks if they managed to gather adventurers for a recovery operation. If Mastasugu is there, then he can also participate. He shares that he has no idea, as first of all, the place is full of hardcore people. They may not want to mobilize as a group to prevent their secrets from leaking out. The other person seems confused. Seriously, is it because they don't want us to expose their secrets? Is this really the situation where they can think like this? If team magic tools or spiritual powers were to leak, it would be some serious news. And other comments. Another mentions that if they ignore the small fries and aim directly for the boss, maybe they can win. Then another person comments that they got some information about an accident in a dungeon and asks if anyone can go and help. One asks if it's in Shinjuku. They say no in Chikaho. Then he says that he won't go there. The person is confused. Wait a minute, that's cold. He said he has to save Japan, but in the end adventurer power is just hot air. The other person replies that this is stupid. It must be a dungeon. If you go there yourself, then that's your own responsibility. Don't come complaining to us while behaving like a spoiled brat. If you're going to give another person trouble, then just shut up and die. That's the responsibility of an adventurer. Then she comments, if you think you are a samurai, it was just an overreaction. If you want to help, then you should go yourself. If you can't do that, why not make a request? The other person apologizes. Meanwhile, Karen is furious at Karaboshi. Why is there a monster in his house? He tries to calm her down, saying that she is Rhea and that he brought her here from the dungeon. She's furious. He brought it home? What was he even thinking? It's a monster. Rhea is definitely a monster, but she's not a bad girl. She argues that she's still a monster. Even if she's a monster, she could still be a friend too, says Karaboshi. No way, says Karen. He protests, asking what the difference is between her and the adventurers on the 13th floor. She is all right, and she's definitely a friend. He argues that he is not leaving monsters to chance. If he finds one, he'll defeat it. What he means to say is that the decision of who is a friend or foe should not be based solely on species. As they are talking, the plant shoots potatoes at him. She comments on how the plant just attacked him. He argues that it's just an expression of her affection, but Karen makes it clear that it is an attack. Karen thinks they should uproot it after all, but he protests. It definitely won't hurt anyone, and asks Karen to stop. He is glad he could persuade Karen to stop yesterday, but he himself is confused. What should he do with Ria? He goes to meet Katora-san and has brought meat for him. His neighbor apologizes for taking so much good meat from him, but he has something to give back. He has grown some asparagus. They look perfectly healthy and nice. He asks his neighbor how many years he has been growing them. He explains that he just planted them last year. He's amazed to see how fast the plants grew. Karaboshi then says that normally it takes at least 5 years for them to get this thick. He says that is right, but when he made the compost using monster meat, this happened. He asks if he could get some of the compost. He agrees. He also hands him something he found inside the meat he bought. He does not know what it is, so he can have it. As he goes back to his house, Ria the plant is still mad at him. He decides to give her some time to get over yesterday's incident. He secretly adds the compost he brought into the pot, and she begins to like the soil and starts glowing. He explains that it has all kinds of nutrients from dungeon monsters and that he thought she would like it. He also shows her that he bought a magical stone, a stone discovered inside monsters on extremely rare occasions. Its use is unknown. The plant seems happy now, and Karaboshi asks her to forgive him. She's happy playing with him. He is content that she is feeling better, as it was his fault for bringing her here. In the dungeon, Karin has become considerably stronger. If they are talking about pure firepower, Karin is stronger than him, but because of his growth acceleration skill, he still levels up faster. They are happy that both of them are getting stronger at a good pace. They take the materials from 350 silver wolves to the shop, and ask the store clerk to buy them. Yuduki asks them to wait, brings out her board and starts inspecting the kills. She calculates that the purchase price would be 17500 yen. She also hands him the dismantling knife he asked about. Karaboshi comments that it was fast. She replies that they made it using an accelerated process. She also got a whetstone and asked if she should sharpen it. He agrees. She sharpens the knife on the stone, thanks him for waiting, and then goes silent when he asks for the price. He is amazed. Why is she acting weird today? What happened to her usual energy? He asks. She replies that even she can't be energetic all the time. He says he understands, but it's still out of character for her. She says she does not know, but since they seem interested, asks if they want to hear her story. They agree. She explains that the branch manager of the Sapporo store has gone missing. At first she thought she fled into the night because her performance results were getting worse, but from her IC card history it seems she went to Chikuhall. He asks how long she has been missing. She replies that it has been 5 days. Karen comments that with only a record of when she entered and the number of days she's been gone, it's not enough to tell exactly where she is. He looks at the store clerk and asks if she was planning to go and help her. She agrees that she is strong enough to go look for her coworker. She explains that she has a store to take care of, and even in this situation she is still the branch manager. They can't believe that the bosses would take a break just because a worker didn't come back. He suggests that she could take a day off, but she says that she has never taken a day off. In a place like this, the difference between vacation and work is small. They agree. She then asks if she made an adventurer request to him, would he accept it? In his mind he is very happy, as this is his first request, but he tells her that depending on the details he will think about it. She says she wants him to search for the branch manager in the Chikuho dungeon, down to the 8th floor. He asks how she was so certain about the 8th floor. She explains that the reason for the 8th floor is that they received a request from an armor manufacturer to secure silver wolf material. It seems she entered the dungeon to meet the deadline, and in the Chikuho dungeon silver wolves appear between the 6th and 8th floors. She feels that she will be around that area. He asks about the deadline, as it may be impossible to find her before that. There may not even be any bones left. Searching is not one of his strong points, and he wonders if he is even the right one for the job. She says she believes in him, and that he is the right one for the job. She gives him a deadline of about a month. Her coworker has a magic bag, and thinks she would be prepared to stay that long if needed. He pauses and says that the deal is no good after all. Yuduki is disappointed. He explains that he has circumstances that won't allow him to leave his house no matter what. He is thinking about Ria. The store clerk comments that adventurers are all selfish. They talk about helping others and rescuing Japan, but then disappear and ignore other adventurers in trouble. He responds that if she knows someone is in trouble, why isn't she trying to get help closer by? If she really wants to save her, she should ask adventurers in Sapporo. Karen asks Karaboshi if it is because of her that he can't leave the house. Then she asks why he does not just bring her along. She is in a flower pot after all. He asks if that would really be alright. Isn't she a monster? Karen agrees she wasn't sure at first, but since he says it's alright, she believes him because they are partners. The store clerk is suffering, and she can sense it. Karaboshi places his hand over Karen's head and says he will accept the request. She is happy, but he mentions that she has to pay the request fee and the rescue fee. She agrees and says she will pay 300,000 yen now, and another 200,000 after he succeeds. If he does it in one day, the total will be 500,000 yen. That's very attractive. He agrees that it certainly is. She adds that she will give a 5% bonus on all materials he brings back during the search, and that expert fees, equipment repairs, lodging and medical expenses will be covered. He is amazed. It is a very good offer. He asks if she can trust him to find her. She says yes. As they move out of the store, Karen thanks him. He explains that there is nothing she needs to thank him for. He is just happy that someone who always says she's the best and a genius still cares about somebody else. That more than anything made him want to help, along with Karen's kind words. Since they have decided, they begin preparing and sorting out the details of how they are going to do this, excited and happy. Yuduki is also relieved that someone will search for her co-worker. She is glad she does not have to go herself, as she would not meet the material deadline. What a fool she is. It's because hopeless people like her exist that employees overflowing with talent like herself can shine. She is the darkness that allows others to shine. Losing that darkness would be a great loss for the world and for herself. She will not let her die. She must survive at all costs. Air is heading out to save you, to save a failure like you. They are all set with Rhea in a box in the car. He explains to his plant monster Rhea that they are heading out today, and if she's wondering where they're going, it's the Chikaho dungeon. He shares how he hasn't visited it in a while. As Karen sits in the car, Rhea and Karen exchange silent, hostile eye contact. Karen says that the wolves mainly appear on the 6th and 7th floors of the dungeon, so it shouldn't be too much trouble. He agrees, but he adds that things could be different starting from the 6th floor. He shares that there seem to be traps, things like pitfalls. They're not enough to kill someone, but they would be a problem if they got stuck while monsters attacked at the same time. The difficulty increases, almost like a game tutorial. Karen commented, "If you look at it from the dungeon's perspective, it makes sense. There's no way the dungeon exists just to kill people. It has no motive to invite people otherwise." He adds, he really wants to rush and search, but decides they should take it easy for now. Karen asks how long it would take to reach the 8th floor. The word on the street is that it takes about a month. Rhea also asks if they'll be able to make it in time. He replies that they have to, no matter what. While traveling by car, they arrive at the hotel he stayed at earlier. Karen suggests that they stop by the Black Dragon Caravan, a shop that sells many things. He's excited to see what they have. Now that stigma has declined, the occult has become mainstream. There's no scientific proof that any of it works, but it does seem effective, and it's better to be prepared. He wanders around the store looking around excitedly like a child. They have stamina-increasing serums. He also sees slimy eels near the corner. Thanks to these, he managed to get out unharmed once, even when surrounded by monsters. The expiration date is 1 day after opening the seal, so to be safe he takes 4 eels. He then looks for Karen and asks if she found anything good. She's looking at a cute chicken-like stuffed toy that makes cheep 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 sounds. She says she definitely does not like it, she just thought it might come in handy later. He points out that it makes too much noise and does not qualify as a justifiable expense. She agrees that it would clearly alert enemies but admits she kind of likes it, repeatedly making the cheep cheep sounds. As they enter the dungeon, Karen says that the 4th floor boss is the giant killer rabbit. Its resistance can't even be compared to others. She's a little worried. He remembers that she has never fought a boss before. She agrees and asks if she can fight the next one. He agrees. You can handle it yourself. This rabbit seems stronger than the one on the last floor, but he will help if anything gets strange. She asks him to please do so. Karen's magic increases with concentration. This attack feels far stronger than any of his, he wonders. He suggests assigning skill points before going to the 6th floor. As he opens his skill chart, he notices Rhea's skill points as well. She's at level H, and she's growing fast. Before he finishes, Karen has already destroyed the monster. You did it, Karen, he says proudly. She says she did, but something feels strange. She feels weird, like she can see more clearly, even better than before. He tells her that if something happened, she should say it. He won't get mad. She says she leveled up and gained sharper senses. He's happy. There seems to be no problem. She wonders if the boss-level monster dropped an item. He notices that she has acquired a detection skill. It's not only her sight that's changing. Her detection skill also gained a point last night. Small gaps under their feet, the form and texture of the walls. If one pays attention, they can understand them clearly. As they move from the 5th floor to the 6th floor, he knows this detection skill will be useful in unknown areas. There are a lot of weeds growing on the 6th floor. Karen agrees they should investigate. She is gradually getting better. Karen warns him that something is coming. He notices it too, but detection activates faster. They won't get lost. She's right. Silver wolves are approaching. They both attack the wolves. He explains that there's no difference between these silver wolves and the ones in the dungeon garage. Karen asks if they should proceed to the 7th floor. He says no, not yet. They should find the boss while mapping the area. If it's too difficult, they'll turn back. They agree. They begin mapping the dungeon, moving silently from one area to another. He asks Karen if she can see a trap ahead looking at a pile of dried leaves. She says yes, but not clearly. He says that in that case it should be fine, and deliberately slides into the dried leaves. She's confused. What was he even trying to do? She asks if he's all right. He says yes, there's no problem. She says there are a lot of problems with this. Why did he trigger it on purpose, as there could be something sharp like a trap under the leaves? He's confused. He explains that now they know there's nothing down there, and he now understands the diameter of the pit, something he couldn't know without falling in. She thinks there's definitely something wrong with Karaboshi. They move forward and encounter a giant wolf. It's massive. They look at him hiding behind a rock. They're confused about what to do. He says it would be much easier if they had a shield. The area is full of pitfalls, making it difficult to fight while avoiding them. He considers whether he could manage if he had more points and instantaneous power, but wonders if that would really be enough. He looks at Karen and asks her to promise not to tell anyone what he's about to do. She agrees. Alright, they get Ria out of the magic box. Ria has 8 skill points. He does not know what treasure house means, but it's worth a try. He asks Ria if she can use the magical jar to throw potato stones, but Ria is furious as she was stuck in a cramped place. He apologizes for keeping her in such a cramped space. She's cranky. He asks if she can take the stones from the jar. She indicates that she can. He explains that when he will signal her, she is supposed to shoot the boss with everything she has got. If something happens, they'll cover it. They do a countdown 3 to 1. Ria begins bombing the boss with potato stones from the jar. Even though she's less than a year old, she's incredibly strong. He thinks about how powerful his adoptive daughter has become. Karen is confused. She wasn't this strong before. How did she grow up so quickly? He calls Karen over and shows her the screen. This is his secret. He has a magic tool that can unlock the latent potential of others. If the world found out, the consequences would be terrifying. That's why he has kept it secret. He is only telling her this because it's Karen. She blushes, clearly happy as he has given her such importance in his life. She asks if he can see her skill tree and magic power too. He asks if she wants to see it. She says yes, and asks him to put all the points into magic power. He warns her not to put everything in. Her senses might change too much, but does as she asks. She feels overwhelmingly strong and declares she'll defeat the next floor's boss. He tells her not to rush and that they should move steadily while she gets used to the sudden changes. Soon 3 bosses from the 7th floor appear simultaneously. Karen defeats them instantly. He suggested that she should only kill Small Fry before, as she can't fully control her power. She apologizes. He is worried she might get him killed. They head back both exhausted. It's already 6 p.m. They've been inside for over 5 hours and still have no clue about Oiso-san. The possibility that she's below the 7th floor grows stronger. Karen says they haven't found her yet. He assures her they shouldn't rush. If they want to reach the 8th floor, they need to lay a proper foundation so the treasure does not turn into a mummy. They go out for armor shop. A person apologizes for the wait and confirms the order. He shows the total and asks if it's acceptable, then adds service charges, and he asks them to split it between the team. The total is 46,305 yen. The store clerk explains that the ordered items are complete and that they should stop by the armor shop next door. At the armor store, the clerk welcomes them warmly. He's surprised that they know his name and even his handle. She explains she heard it from Yuduki. She said that if a pervert in a mask appears, he's her subordinate and should be treated politely. She adds that she and hers are enemies who fight over money. He also corrects that he is neither Yudumi's subordinate nor her friend. She says she knows very well, and even if she's far away, she'll always be his senpai. Yuduki ordered protection equipment for both of them, and she showed them their new armor. They examine the armor. It's expensive and fits perfectly. She explains it's made from centipede's hard shell. He knows it is the hard shell that derived from a centipede long ago. She appreciates her senpai that she has gotten this amazing armor. He thinks that with this, the chance of being killed is greatly reduced. He asks the price. She replies that it's free of charge. They're confused. She explains that everyone is heading to recapture Shinjuku, and no one else here can reach the 8th floor. They asked many adventurers for help, but everyone refused with excuses. The only one who accepted was him, because of his interest, and because of his and Karen's desire to save Oiso, their co-worker. They are giving this for no cost. He says he understands and promises to give his best. She thanks both of them, and prays that Oiso-san is safe. He opens his blog. Could it be that he is going to die today from happiness? He has 14-page reviews and 10 comments. He's happy that he suddenly became the kind of adventurer who gets comments. Although the comments are very negative, telling him to accept search quests, leave Japan, and not get carried away, he is still amazed that so many people are commenting. He replies that he is very happy to receive the comments, that they are completely right, and thanks them for pointing it out. He feels motivated and ready to work hard today. Karen is already ready to go inside and fight, and tells him to hurry up. She says that he has gotten too strong and she's the one doing all the hard work, while he's getting no chance to do anything. He comments that does not she think the attack area was a little too wide. She does not listen and says that he should leave the attacking to her. Supporting people is one of his strong points anyway. She's very motivated, so he thinks it's fine. She wonders how he can stay so calm even when people badmouth him on his blog. He's always calm and incredible. If it were her, she would be very depressed. She knows he didn't do anything to deserve so much insult. He's a little weird but a good person. That's why she wants to help him this time, to repay the favor of him helping her with his magic, which made her this strong. He comments that Karen can lower the heat a little bit. As they sit down to eat, they confirm that the 7th floor boss was also a big wolf. There are no traces of Oiso-san there, so there's no other option. They have to move to the 8th floor. On the 8th floor there are a lot of plants and weeds, and the ceiling height changes layer after layer. It's mysterious. The grass obstructs the field of vision, making it hard to see where to stand. It's good for hiding but bad for searching. There are traps as well. It seems this is going to take a lot of time. Karaboshi hears Karen shout that there are 2 silver wolves. He asks Karen to wait. Then he sees a long-armed goblin. Its arms are unusually long, and it has a repulsive face. It's a humanoid monster that appears in lower levels, even worse than expected. It's an owner goblin, a goblin that wanders aimlessly with a silver wolf, named that way because it looks like it's walking the wolf. He asks Karen to come back. There are 2 silver wolves and a goblin in front of them. If you look closely, they are full of wounds. They were part of an abandoned hunt by monster adventurers. They continue deeper into the dungeon, carrying hatred for the humans who hurt them. He tells Karen to stop, but she does not. She uses her magic and kills the 2 wolves, but the goblin is unharmed and attacks. The goblin is very heavy. She tries to use magic again, but he tells Karen to back off. He won't let the goblin hurt her. He kills the goblin and begins to puke. He explains that it's nothing, just a level of sickness. This would be very good for leveling up, but if they fought them one by one, they would lose too much time. From now on they should move while carrying supplies. What is that? It's a very slimy eel. Apparently this item keeps monsters away. Fighting is taking longer than he thought, so he tells Karen to take one just in case. She looks pale and uncomfortable. Rhea is now on his shoulder because his arms are full. It can't be used on a single person. It has to be both of them. They restart the search. It's effective. He comments that Karen looks more like a monster now. Uso is somewhere in the grass. She can't move. Her left leg is completely broken. She's far from escaping. If she had expensive medicine, things might be different. If she hadn't followed the silver wolf to this place, she might have survived. The deeper the monster, the higher the quality of its materials. If you sell them at the store in Sapporo, they fetch a high price. She thought she could outdo the other branch manager, trample over that hateful Yuduki with her abilities, and this is the result of that thinking. She's already out of food and water. Her only salvation was a concealment item she used to erase her scent. Even if she survives, there's no way they would send a search team for a normal person like her. So why is she trying so hard? This happened because of her own carelessness. Even in this disgraceful state, she would rather die clean than dirty. She thinks about monsters approaching her. She's terrified of goblins and wolves. She does not want to die. She wants someone to help her. Then between the weeds, a person with a strange mask appears, frightening her even more. He tries to move her Redbury. Some cracking noises are heard, and she complains it is hurting her. He is relieved that she is finally awake. He confirms if she is Okusan. He introduces himself. He is an adventurer named Air, and they accept a quest to come and help her. She tries to get up listening to this information but is still feeling a bit dizzy. He asks her not to pass out as it would be very difficult to carry her. She is surprised and pushes him away, ordering him to stay away, thinking he is a monster. She says she is sure that he is thinking of soiling her and doing things to her. He should just straight away get to killing her. Karen comes up and asks. She was sorry to interrupt but confirms if Okusan could she stand up. She is amazed to see a young girl along with the monster. Karaboshi introduces her as Karen and explains how they both accepted the quest to come and rescue her. She is amused a quest for her. He confirms that yes, the employees at Ichibog waiting for her. Safe return. She then informs them about her leg, but she realizes that it has healed. Karen confirmed that she used restoration medicine and it did all the work. She tries to get up and confirms that she can walk by herself. She is grateful and thanked them as they even healed her leg. She can't thank them enough. He says that she really wanted to thank someone, then she should thank her company as they paid for everything, but she still wanted to thank them. They are all ready to leave. He also hands her an eel and asks her to take it just in case she is also appalled by the slimy eel like Karen. As they are moving, they see a gate Eikreither, the device that allows one to travel between floors in the dungeon. It's only possible to go floors directly above or below. That one was in. If they use the gate, they'll be on the surface in no time. Uso agreed. Suddenly Karen is attacked, and the party of 3 has reappeared. He looks at Karaboshi commenting, it has been a long time since they have seen the masked bastard. They have already attacked Karen. She lies on the ground not moving. As he takes out his dagger, Haruya is ready with his arrow targeting Karen. Shikama announces, if he even moves a muscle he will not hesitate in killing Karen. They shared how they told everyone to not sell material to that store, and they followed along. Once they used Masatsugu's name, he thought that they would have another store come and collect the material, but to think Uso herself would come down to get them is weird. She is furious. Was this the reason that there were less people selling material to them? The 3 of them started laughing as it took this much time for her to realize this. She shared how they even hurt and released some monsters so adventurers could kill them easily. They asked her to shut up. These guys were here while Masatsugu-san was helping somewhere else. He asked why they were doing so and what their purpose was. Shikama asked, is he gonna make him say it? He is just doing this for fun. They mocked them in public and this is a revenge against them and Masatsugu. The store clerk shouted, this is ridiculous, they think they will get away with this. What do you mean get away with it? We haven't done anything wrong. She highlights, if she reports this, they lose adventure certification. They mocked her, and what makes her think that she will get out of there alive? Lars asked, since Shikama as they are already out, can they do both of them? He is disappointed. He only think of one thing.